Lisa had just cleared the last few yards when she found herself in front of the bank building. It stood impressively, its modern facade intertwined with classical detailing. Stately columns framed the entrance, making it seem like a gateway to a grand temple. Taking a deep breath, Lisa ascended the steps and entered a lavishly decorated interior. It was obvious that she wasn't dressed in the latest fashion AUR, far from destitute, yet nowhere near glamorous. A young security guard, Mike, who was stationed near the tellers, quickly took note of her. From the corner of his eye, he observed her modest attire and thought she might have walked into the wrong place, but to his surprise, Lisa approached him directly. "Could you please tell me how to get to the safe deposit boxes?" she asked, her tone conveying an unexpected air of authority. Mike frowned slightly, reassessing her. He found it hard to believe that someone dressed as she was would have anything to store in a safe deposit box. Nonetheless, he was obliged to assist her. The bank manager, George Benson, was a formidable figure, known for his harsh demeanor and avaricious nature. Although not well liked, he was valued by upper management for his meticulous execution of duties, which included the tough job of handling overdue loans with his own brand of rigor. Despite the internal tensions, overt conflicts were rare. Mike led Lisa to him and cautiously announced, "Here she is for you, Mr. Benson. What can I do for you?" asked the manager with a discernible sneer. "I need to access one of the bank's safes," Lisa replied, her voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. "Strange, your time we've never seen you among our clients," Mr. Benson remarked skeptically. "Here, your TM's the key. It's for safe number 12, Lisa responded more confidently, surprising the manager. "How does someone looking like you come to check a safe deposit box?" "All right, let a EURTM see what this is about," he said, motioning her towards a secured area. Inside, they navigated through several security layers, and Mr. Benson, checking the numbers on the safes, expressed surprise. "This one hasn't been opened in years," he noted, implying he hadn't a URTM seen the actual owner before. "It's inherited from my mother. Here a URTM's my key," Lisa added. "That URTM's incredible," Mr. Benson admitted. The safe had been rented out long before his time, and as a former security guard, he was unaware of its contents. He helped her open the safe but lingered in the room, breaking protocol out of curiosity. Inside the safe was a beautifully carved box, typically used for storing precious items. Overcome by curiosity, he edged closer, nearly bumping into Lisa. "Oh, sorry, you're a bit clumsy," he muttered, feigning clumsiness. "TM's okay? You're almost done," Lisa assured him, opening the box to reveal an assortment of gold jewelry, earrings, rings, bracelets, chains, and necklaces. Lisa turned out to be the owner of a real fortune. Mr. Benson could hardly contain his excitement at the sight of the wealth. He nearly whistled, while Mike, stationed outside, was oblivious to the discovery. Committed to his duties, he stayed out of personal affairs. Meanwhile, it was a mystery how Lisa URTM's mother, who had spent her life as a janitor, struggling alongside her daughter to make ends meet, could have amassed such riches. At the bottom of the box was a note, but Lisa decided to read it later at home, not wanting to occupy more of the bank staff's time. Mr. Benson was stunned, his mind racing. So this seemingly ordinary woman, what a surprise! But Lisa herself was unaware of what awaited her in that bank safe. She was just as astonished as Mr. Benson. "I think will go now," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Of course," the manager nodded, already concocting a plan. "Actually, let me offer you a security escort. Your TMA's not safe to walk around with such wealth. My man will escort you to your apartment." "I can manage on my own," Lisa initially declined, but Mr. Benson insisted. "AITA a complimentary service. Will ensure your safety." Reluctantly, Lisa agreed, given the value of the items. After confirming her agreement, Mr. Benson led Lisa out of the vault and quietly instructed Mike, "Escort this lady to her apartment," while mentally noting her address. "Why is this necessary?" Mike questioned. "Your a VIP client and we ensure our client's safety," Mr. Benson lied smoothly. "Understood, sir," Mike replied, not one to question orders, especially coming from a figure of authority like Mr. Benson, whom he respected as a military commander. His adherence to orders was second nature, bolstered by his recent service in the military. Lisa exited the bank first, followed by Mike after a few moments, receiving last-minute instructions from the manager. After scanning the area, Mike said, "We can proceed," keeping the details to himself. As they walked, they engaged in conversation, discovering mutual interests. Lisa found Mike intriguing and insightful, akin to having a deep conversation in a scholarly setting. Reaching her apartment, Lisa invited Mike in for tea, offering him chocolate waffles she had bought earlier. Inside, the apartment was cozy, adorned with practical yet personal touches. After settling in with tea, the aroma filling the air, Mike commented, "It's quite homey here." "I do what I can," Lisa replied modestly. Their conversation meandered through personal stories and shared experiences, revealing layers of their lives that neither had expected to uncover that day. Lisa grew up in a small town, where her dreams of the bustling city life seemed just out of reach. She lived with her mother, Sarah, scraping by on a modest income that influenced every aspect of their lives, from their clothes and food to Lisa's social circle, which consisted mostly of peers from similar economic backgrounds. These shared hardships fostered a bond between them, united by their common struggles and aspirations for a better future. Lisa often daydreamed of a different life, a grand house, a sprawling porch, a lush garden, and a well-respected place within the community. Yet, each morning, she awoke to the same small-town reality, far removed from her dreams. Lisa's father was a figure shrouded in mystery. Sarah seldom spoke of him, and any attempt to bring him up would visibly distress her. Over time, Lisa stopped probing, accepting that her mother preferred to leave the past unspoken. In school, Lisa was a bright student, consistently achieving top grades. Her teachers saw her potential and prepared her diligently for college admission. After acing her exams, Lisa was admitted to college based on her impressive academic performance. Suddenly, the urban life she had envisioned seemed within reach, almost tangible. She even began planning her move to conquer the city. However, her plans came to an abrupt halt when Sarah fell seriously ill. The diagnosis painted a bleak picture, an incurable condition characterized by severe headaches and bouts of high blood pressure. Lisa chose to enroll in online courses, allowing her to remain close to home and care for her mother. She delved deeply into managing Sarah's treatment, frequently seeking information about their options and the harsh realities they faced. "What should we anticipate?" she once implored the doctor, who could only provide vague assurances about their efforts. "Aren't there any effective medications?" Lisa questioned tearfully, only to be confronted with the harsh realities of life-threatening illnesses. Sarah's health declined rapidly. Her memory faltered, often leaving her unable to recognize her own daughter. Lisa watched with a heavy heart as her mother faded away, grasping onto fleeting moments of clarity. During one such moment, Sarah mentioned past regrets and a mysterious gift intended for Lisa, a gift meant to aid her on a journey Sarah envisioned as arduous and lengthy. However, before she could elaborate, Sarah's strength waned, and she retreated into silence. In the ensuing days, Sarah's condition deteriorated further. Despite the doctor's diligent efforts with intensive therapies and carefully chosen medications, the progression of her illness could not be halted. Sarah passed away quietly one early morning, just days before her birthday. Overwhelmed by sorrow, Lisa struggled to come to terms with her loss, finding solace in the support of friends who helped her navigate the grieving process. In the aftermath, she confronted the harsh reality of balancing her education with financial responsibilities, barely scraping by with a part-time job that offered meager pay. 2 weeks after her mother, IDOW's death, a startling revelation came from a notary who informed Lisa of a will Sarah had left behind, containing provisions Lisa had never anticipated. The notary handed her the key to a bank safe, the contents of which were unknown even to him, suggesting only that Sarah had wanted to surprise her daughter. This mystery came at a critical time, as Lisa stood at a crossroads in her life, needing to make important decisions without fully knowing what lay ahead. The eventual discovery within the safe would dramatically alter Lisa's understanding of her mother, revealing secrets that suggested Sarah TM's life was more complex than Lisa had ever known. Sharing these revelations with Mike, the security guard at the bank, Lisa found a sympathetic ear. Mike shared his own struggles with trust and betrayal, finding common ground in their experiences of personal pain. As their conversation drew to a close, Lisa thanked Mike for his kindness, but their time was abruptly cut short by his boss, George, who questioned the delay. Unbeknownst to Mike, George had nefarious plans involving the contents of Lisa's safe. After Mike left, George covertly confirmed the address Lisa had unwittingly provided and prepared for a covert operation to rob her. Overhearing this plan, Mike was horrified to realize he had inadvertently set Lisa up for betrayal. Determined to protect her, he feigned illness to leave work early, rushing to arm himself and prepare to defend Lisa from the impending threat. His actions set the stage for a confrontation that would test his resolve and commitment to doing what was right, despite the personal risks involved. Maxime was on high alert as he left his home, his mind racing with possible scenarios that could unfold at Lisa's apartment. He had no formal weapons, but his military training and fitness regimen had kept him in top shape, prepared for physical confrontations. With each passing minute, the possibility that Mr. Robbins' men might already be at Lisa's place increased. Grabbing a few items for self-defense, he rushed out the door. Traffic was dense, and the taxi moved frustratingly slow. Maxime's anxiety spiked with each stoplight. He remembered Lisa's vulnerability, how she had shared her story, trusting him during their brief interaction. His sense of duty, ingrained during his service, propelled him to protect her, regardless of the personal cost. Upon arriving at Lisa's building, Maxime scanned the area. The quiet of the neighborhood was deceptive. His eyes locked onto a black SUV parked conspicuously nearby. A lone figure inside seemed distracted, smoking and lost in the music blaring from the car. Seizing the opportunity, Maxime stealthily approached the building, bypassing the elevator to avoid any noise, and ascended the stairs to the 7th floor. Reaching Lisa's floor, he found it ominously quiet. Tension coursed through him as he prepared for the worst. He pressed the doorbell, ready to confront whoever might answer. The door opened a crack, revealing a man whose build suggested he could be the driver's accomplice. Without hesitation, Maxime struck, neutralizing the threat quickly and silently. Inside, he found another man attempting to subdue Lisa. With no time for caution, Maxime intervened, freeing her from the assailant's grip. As they tried to escape, a shot rang out, striking Maxime in the shoulder. Ignoring the searing pain, he pushed Lisa ahead, ensuring her safety as they exited the building. Once outside, they called the police. Within minutes, the area swarmed with officers and an ambulance. The assailants were arrested, and Maxime, though fading in and out of consciousness, managed to expose Mr. Robinson as the mastermind behind the attack. The revelation led to a swift police raid at Mr. Robinson's office, resulting in his arrest and the detention of his entire crew. Hospitalized, Maxime was relieved to learn the bullet had caused no critical damage. Meanwhile, Lisa, unharmed physically, but shaken, refused medical attention and returned to her apartment. She was confronted once again with the box of treasures that had nearly cost her life. Doubts about her mother's past and the origins of such wealth troubled her. Had her mother hidden the treasure deliberately? Were they stolen goods? These questions haunted Lisa, offering no clear answers. The only clue was a note containing an address and a phone number, penned in her mother's handwriting. Intrigued but cautious, Lisa decided against a hasty phone call. The following day, armed only with a map, she set out to find the address, located in a well-to-do neighborhood in a neighboring region. The journey was quiet, with Lisa lost in her thoughts, piecing together her mother's mysterious past. Upon arrival, she was struck by the opulence of the area. The address led her to a mansion that seemed more like a castle from a fairy tale than a family home. She was greeted warmly by a dignified woman who introduced herself as Lady. The name sparked no recognition in Lisa, but the woman's reaction to the note indicated a deep, emotional connection. Led into the mansion, Lisa was overwhelmed by the lavish décor. An art gallery, marble floors, and antique furniture adorned the vast interior. Lady, visibly moved, beckoned her to sit and prepare for what seemed to be a significant revelation. As they settled at an ornate wooden table, a man joined them. Lisa repeated her introduction and explained the reason for her visit, showing the mysterious box and note left by her mother. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, as it became clear that the secrets buried in her mother Urtm's past were about to come to light, potentially altering Lisa Urtm's understanding of her heritage and her mother Urtm's life dramatically. The man peered into the casket and then, startled, looked at his wife. "So these are those same jewels," he whispered breathlessly. "Yes, indeed," Lady replied, her voice trembling less. Unable to contain herself any longer, Lisa exclaimed, "Can someone please explain what's going on here?" Lady began her story as she poured aromatic tea and placed a bowl of candies next to Lisa. They had a business that brought in a significant income. Lady and man were so passionate about their work, investing all their efforts and resources, that they could not spend enough time on their daughter's upbringing. As a result, Maria began to chart her own life path and met a boy as soon as she matured a bit. Naturally, her actions didn't fit into her parents' plans, and they made it clear in no uncertain terms that it was too early to think about a family. Maria resisted their opinion and defiantly ran away from home. Perhaps she harbored a rebellious streak at that age, as many girls seek independence, despite lacking means and a promising future. She considered herself someone Urtm's bride and wouldn't listen to anyone. Her parents tried to convince her otherwise, but it was futile. Maria grew increasingly distant from them until she finally cut off all contact. That was the last straw for them. They simply resigned themselves to the fact that their daughter was a lost cause and accepted it to avoid tormenting themselves with guilt. "We always wanted the best future for Masha," Lady lamented, "but it all turned out the opposite." "Yes, and it's tragic," he added, his voice heavy. "Not quite." Lady shook her head and continued, "With your permission. Their daughter didn't have much cash, so she took the casket with her, which contained the family jewels. However, her parents decided not to chase her and force her to return home. They thought it best to let their daughter decide how to live her life, effectively setting Maria adrift. Fueled by youthful emotion, Maria ran away from home, having fallen in love with Mikhail, who promised her a happy future far from her parents. Maria could not help but believe him because the fiancé, from a poor family, had experienced life Urtm's hardships firsthand and was mentally prepared to overcome them. At that moment, the girl had no doubts that everything would work out. Resigning themselves to the situation, Lady was at peace. They realized that their daughter was unstoppable and that it made no sense to prove anything to her. Maria had made her choice, thereby dooming herself to an unhappy future. The subsequent life with Mikhail showed that he had no intention of changing. He was content that his fiancée was merely by his side. Soon the boy took to drinking and often came home drunk. Maria endured this for a long time, crying into her pillow at night, hoping that Mikhail would come to his senses and they could start a new life. But each day only got worse. He increasingly turned to the bottle, and once he nearly gambled away her family jewels. Fortunately, Maria noticed in time and re-hid the casket. From that moment, their relationship irrevocably broke down. Eventually, Mikhail left her when she was pregnant. At the ultrasound, Maria learned she would have a daughter. After her birth, she did everything to raise the child alone without any help. It was tough, but she never gave up. And one day, to secure Lisa Urtm's future, she rented a bank safe and placed the casket of jewels there. Time passed, but Maria never thought to use the treasure. She always mentally told herself, "No, this is for Lisa." Even when she fell seriously ill, she still did not dare to take even a part of the jewels. Maria's courage was enviable because, knowing there was a chance to improve her health, or at least delay the inevitable, she did not use them and silently passed away, refusing the chance to live a little longer. On the other hand, according to the doctors, her disease was incurable and unlikely anything could have helped unless by a miracle, which did not happen. In the end, Lisa was left without a mother, essentially sentencing herself to such an existence, and it was difficult to judge why she had made that decision. All her life, working as a cleaner, she never touched those jewels. Lisa was shocked when Lady told her all this. She pulled out a handkerchief and wept loudly for several minutes before suddenly calming down and saying, "It's hard to talk about this, but it seems you acted wisely." "In what sense?" the man inquired. "You didn't forcibly bring your daughter back and hoped she would return soon after experiencing life elsewhere." "You're right, Lisa. We indeed hoped for that," Lady nodded. "And it's just awful to hear that Masha is no more." she added, rising from her chair and walking to the window, leaning her head against it in thought. The man also stood and joined his wife, wrapping an arm around her shoulders and whispering, "We're not to blame for what happened. No, we're to blame because we didn't allow her to marry," Lady countered. "But he turned out to be an alcoholic, and everything could have turned out differently if we had helped," she insisted. "That's not true. Their family would have fallen apart anyway," Man tried to convince his wife. "Maybe you're right," Lady finally agreed. "We couldn't have done anything, but now we have someone to pass all our love and care to." They both looked at Lisa, and a minute later, they were hugging her. At that moment, all their sorrowful thoughts receded into the background because they had a granddaughter to whom they could give everything that they couldn't give to their daughter. Lisa also hugged her grandparents, scarcely believing her luck. "Honestly, I didn't expect my mother to leave me such an inheritance," she said as they sat down to dinner. "She knew what she was doing," Lady replied. "What are you doing now?" "I'm finishing university, and then I want to work in my field," Lisa confidently stated. "Well, commendable. What do you think about the future?" He smiled. "Do you have a young man yet?" "Not yet, but there is someone I have in mind," Lisa replied, winking her right eye. "Maybe you'll introduce us," he suggested. "Stop it! You've just found a granddaughter and you already want to know everything," his wife chided him. "Be patient and don't torture her with questions. Maybe she'll tell us everything herself." "Of course, Grandma," Lisa cheerfully confirmed, "especially since you once tried to do the same." The hint was very subtle, but they all understood perfectly and forgave each other, nearly repeating their past mistakes. Lady crossed her arms over her chest in response. From that day on, Lisa's life began anew, free from problems and worries. She no longer needed to count pennies or scrape by with random earnings. She spent a few days in their home, trying to adjust to her new lifestyle, but ultimately realized it was best to achieve her goals on her own. However, she didn't refuse support from her wealthy relatives, especially since her grandparents were just beginning to get used to her. They even asked Lisa to show them where Masha's grave was. Upon arriving at the cemetery, Lady and Man spent almost half an hour at the gravestone, silently staring at the modest monument. Besides the inscriptions, there was also a photo of their daughter, from which an adult woman, worn down by problems and grief, looked back at them. It was a tough ordeal, and they barely managed to suppress the urge to burst into tears right at the grave. The next day, Lisa returned to the city to begin her search. She wanted to visit Maxim and see how he was doing. The guard, honestly, was surprised when she appeared. "I thought you'd forgotten about me," Maxim said after Lisa sat on his bed.